How come Jedi weren't able to easily defeat every opponent they faced who didn't have the Force? We'll discuss all that and more in today's Star Wars video. Hey guys, this is Justin. Hello and welcome to another upload. So I saw this question on Reddit the other day, and it was specifically about Obi-Wan versus Jango on Kamino and whether that was a plot hole, i.e. why couldn't Obi-Wan simply force pull or push or heck, simply disarm Jango to win the battle easily? So I'll give my answer today. Just a reminder, we do have new stickers up, including the promo sheet on the Eckhart's Ladder store. Check that out. Link down in the description or through the QR code on screen. But let's get back to the question. And certainly there were times when Jedi, through the Force, could easily use their abilities to completely shorten or make trivial some sort of battle. Whether that is disarming an opponent, knocking them out with a quick Force shove, or just making their defenses trivial, as we see with Luke in the Mandalorian 2 season finale. I'm currently reading the Dark Nest trilogy for my podcast Tapcaf Transmissions. It's fairly late in the Star Wars Legends time period. We actually get an interesting example of how the Force can make battles easier from Leia. She uses her Force abilities to essentially flip a switch in an armored battle droid's brain, turning them off when they otherwise would have been very, very deadly. So why does it only work sometime? Why not all the time? Well, there are a few reasons, and I'm going to briefly, before I get into the full topic, mention fighting other Jedi. If Leia can turn off the brain of a battle droid, couldn't she turn off someone's lightsaber? And yeah, that is possible, although Jedi typically use defensive Force techniques to shield themselves from these sort of effects. But back to situations where Jedi are facing down ordinary combatants, we really have to understand how the Force works. In most 99.99% of cases, a Jedi using the Force does not become Superman. They use the Force for a variety of things, whether replenishing their body as it becomes tired during combat, heightening their reflexes, tapping into these sort of precognitive abilities which Jedi seem to have, and yes, using offensive powers like Force push or pull. However, at the end of the day, Jedi are still human, and using the Force requires a great deal of concentration. And I really want to touch on this point because it goes back to a section from the Bane trilogy, which I've excerpted many times on this channel because I think it's a good illustration of what a Jedi's combat ability would be like. Bane obviously was training as a Sith during this point, but the principles are the same. Using the Force requires an extraordinary amount of concentration, and that is why Jedi and Sith tend to train with lightsaber styles. You can imagine your chosen lightsaber style almost like an algorithm that ideally your body can follow unconsciously. So your attack has an opening, then a block, then depending on what your opponent does, either option A or B, and the very best swordsmen require almost no attention while they're doing this, and as such, they have far more concentration to use the Force, whether to replenish their own stamina, or to augment their strength, or to probe at their opponent's weaknesses. We see this in the battle between Kasim and Bane in the Bane trilogy. Bane is far more naturally powerful with the Force. Kasim is able to keep up, although he does eventually lose, simply because of his training and his dedication. That's another thing. A lot of becoming a good Jedi is not just one's natural attunement to the Force, but also their ability to concentrate, to tune out distractions, and that's why Yoda's training during Episode 5 looks like it does. So take a look at Obi-Wan versus Jango. The entire battle lasts less than 2 minutes, and Jango's assault is absolutely relentless. I honestly think he's saved by his jetpack, because at the beginning, Obi-Wan pretty much has him locked down. He's got the lightsaber going, deflecting his blaster bolts. That's the sort of thing that allows you to use the Force to pull away an opponent's weapon, although Jango Fett is covered with weapons, so it's a bit more difficult. Jango gets the upper hand through surprise, the movement of Slave One, and the firing of his rocket. From that point on, Kenobi's in survival mode against a dude covered with weapons and also fully armored, which I think people forget about sometimes. Like, he's not fighting Han Solo here. He's fighting a man in full Beskar armor with a jetpack and a bunch of neat tricks. I gotta say, rewatching the fight for this video, although some of the effects are a bit silly, especially with Obi-Wan's jumps, I definitely developed more of an appreciation for it. But I do want to talk about the topic a bit more before moving on, because the New Jedi Order and the Legacy era of Star Wars Legends also dive into the physical impacts that extreme Force usage can have on a being. Let's talk about Luke. Obviously, he becomes a Jedi Grand Master. He's arguably the most powerful being in the galaxy, but even he is frequently physically overwhelmed when performing extreme Force feats. For example, again, in the Dark Nest trilogy, on one occasion, he uses Falinasi techniques to keep a ship essentially cloaked. He hides it from view over a prolonged period of time, and the stress on his body is said to have essentially aged him a year, and he passes out afterwards. It required an extreme amount of concentration. The Force is flowing through him nonstop for a long period of time. On that occasion and on others, it's almost described as if the Force is bursting out of him. Whether you personally like this or not, I don't know. I do. It also happens on another occasion when he, again, for a long period of time, is trying to protect his party from the dark side abilities of a Sith, known as Lomi Plo. But there are a few other situations of this era worth noting, including a couple where beings seem to surpass all limits. The best and most famous example of this is probably Jacen Solo in his duel with Onimi. Onimi is the true leader of the Yuuzhan Vong. He's been using Shimra, the supposed overlord, as essentially a puppet. During his final confrontation with Onimi, Jacen Solo achieves a state of oneness with the Force, essentially becoming a being of pure energy for a short period of time, using that to become invulnerable and defeat the Yuuzhan Vong overlord. In the lead up to that final confrontation, we also see Luke achieve, I wouldn't say oneness, but several times in the New Jedi Order, Luke or others are described as fully surrendering themselves to the Force. I just remember a scene where Luke is running up a hallway, basically. Dozens of Yuuzhan Vong are coming at him, and they're not even getting close to touching him. I always imagine it kind of like Dooku's after image effect in Dragon Ball. But two other examples from the New Jedi Order. Ganner Rosodi in the Battle of the Worldwell fights. It's described in the book as thousands of Yuuzhan Vong, with the Force allowing him to continue fighting even after being struck down many times in a way which ordinarily would have killed a mortal being. Basil Warv in Fate of the Jedi has a similar one where he fights 7 Sith at once to protect Alana Solo. Then, probably the second behind Jacen, most famous example of this would be Anakin, not Skywalker, Solo. Similar thing, during the Mirkir Strike mission, he essentially becomes a being of pure energy as he sustains many fatal blows by the Yuuzhan Vong, but still sacrifices himself so his friends and family can escape. But yeah, I hope that helps with your understanding, and I hope it helps you enjoy situations where you do see a Jedi fight someone without the Force, because you could wonder, how is it even possible that they're keeping up? Well, this is why. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Until next time, be safe, have a good one, and may the Force be with you.